Hey everybody, welcome to Board Online, Board Offline. Today we're bringing you another video from another channel. Today we've got the Legends of Nerdvana. This is a group of gamers working their way through a 3,000 game collection, and if I know gamers, probably adding a few to that number along the way. So if you want to see more from Legends of Nerdvana, be sure to check the link in the description below. And now let's get to the video.
Hello everyone, today we got to play Tzolk'in, but before we get into it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to be with us as we review over 3,000 different board games. Randy, tell us more about this particular game.
Tzolk'in the Mayan Calendar. We also played with the Tribes and Prophecies expansion. Designers were Simone Luciani and Danielle Tassini. Artist was Milan Vavron. Publisher was Czech Games Edition. This is still available out there, so if you are interested, whenever you go out and check it out. There's also Rio Grande's as well as Czech Game Editions on ours.
Okay, so let's talk about quality of pieces. So quality of pieces, I have to say, is a little lackluster on this. You have tall circular or cylinder for your workers, but then you have shorter ones for your track markers. Resources are very generic cubes. Corn are just these cardboard tiles. The only thing even remotely cool...
Well, now we upgraded to that. That was not part of it. There's a standard cardboard that comes in there that's the first layer marker. We got one of these, actually Dodd inspired it. Dodd got something like that, and then I had to go out and get one too because it was really cool because they're readily available on eBay pretty cheap.
Okay, so that. But I would have now.
As I say, this is the cool part that comes with it. It's the gear system, and this is a very unique system that was created for this game.
Yeah, so I think this is actually pretty cool, but still the quality's not. I mean, the spinning unit is fine.
Yeah. But
everything else surrounding it. I know a lot of the times when we play this, we actually get out different pieces.
Yeah, we get the Stonemaier gold and the Stonemaier wood and stone.
And the corn, but
there's not enough corn, yeah.
But I use it because... but the skulls are pretty cool.
The skulls are pretty neat.
So, overall, I would probably give this a 7. Only because of the skulls and only because of the clocking mechanism.
Yeah, I mean, the gear system is very unique. I've seen it come up in few different games. I think was it the one with the eggs and the bridge had a little gear system, but it wasn't as elaborate as that. This one is way more elaborate.
So, I mean, yeah, they went chintzy on the pieces, but I guess where it counted, it really worked. We haven't had a problem with the gear system working at all, so it's really worked really well with this. So do you agree with the 7?
Yeah, I think 7's where I'm at on it. I mean, there's nothing spectacular apart from the gears and the skulls. All the cardboard is sufficient. It's not that great, but not bad. And, the wooden markers are
Yeah. Now, there are 3D printed upgrades for this as well. I started printing them. I never finished them. I don't know why.
No, we have red and blue.
We do. The important colors.
Yeah.
So then moving on to theme, this is very much the Aztec Empire, or Mayan. Hey, it's close, not quite. Mayan Empire. So you have the different temples and you're trying to go up the different tracks to please the different gods, as well as making sure to feed your people, build buildings and things like that. I actually really like the theme. I think it's really cool. You don't see this particular theme quite as often as some of the other themes. So I appreciate it. So I'm actually, for theme-wise, I'm probably going to give this an 8.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really intrinsic to the game as far as the theme, but it is a cool theme for it, and it's neat how the mechanisms work as far as all the scoring paths and the different tracks.
Well, the fact is that the way their calendar system works, and the fact that it's implicated here on the board, so I think there's some elements in it that I think are pretty cool, and that's why I gave it such a high score for
I'm probably more of a 7.5. I think it's well done. It's a really cool system, and I do love the art in the game.
The art is absolutely gorgeous.
So, a lot of it's iconography, but what isn't even iconography is pretty cool. So, yeah, I think 7.5 is where I'm at.
Okay. All right. So moving on to rules. It's been a while since we've read the rules because we played this game actually quite a bit.
A lot. So, it's sectioned nicely. There's, the course, it's got a section that goes through all the setups. We've got a nice pictorial and it walks you through that. I always like to see that in a game. It's got, the iconography is really simple once you learn it. It's not complex iconography. And everything is explained in the rule book in detail. So there's no confusion when you get through it, other than the fact that there's a lot to the game. So this is probably a medium to heavy game, I would say. It's closer to the medium side, though. It's not as extreme as a lot of heavier ones, but it is fairly complex.
There's a lot of strategy into this, guys. You have to think that you really do have to plan this out, because this is a timing mechanism game. Let's go into the gameplay.
Well, it's not a timing mechanism.
Well, no,
the clock is the turn.
Yeah, but you have to count where your person needs to be, how many rounds it has to stay on.
Yes, there's a lot of thought going into each turn, but we'll get to that in gameplay. As far as the rules, they're fine. They're pretty good. They've got a cheat sheet on the back with all of the monuments and the different starting, which one of the things I like, they have starting tiles to give you different resources to vary during the game. All the iconography, same for the expansion rule book, it works the same. I'm going to give it probably an 8. I think it's got a lot of material it has to cover, but it does it succinctly and gets the point across.
Yeah. So moving on to gameplay. So there's a lot going on in this game. So just talking about the base game, we'll talk about the expansion here in a little bit. So basically, every round you have you either have to put down a workers, or pick up workers. You cannot skip a turn unless you have a special ability, and that's in these stacks. Okay, and you always have to put it on the far beginning of the track. So
that's available. The lowest that's available.
The lowest that's available. And so for an example, and so each worker I place costs me extra.
These are my workers.
And
these are the ones you haven't got yet.
So for an example, if I only place one at a 0 marker, it's actually going to cost me 0 to place, right? So if you're absolutely broke, there is a way. The problem is there is no resetting, so he can come back and he may not have that choice of 0 or 1 if he wasn't first player. So being first player definitely has his advantage, but at the same time, if first and second player are picking up, then that might free up for the laydown of the first.
It also, being the first player, means that other people will be able to set up and get further along the track than you.
Yeah.
But they have to pay more corn to do so, because whenever you're playing, you have to pay. Your first worker is free to play, except for the cost of the space you're playing it on.
Right, but then your second is a +1, but your third is a +3 total. There is a little chart that shows you, and it's very straightforward for that, of what you have to pay for the amount of workers you have. And every time you add a worker, it exponentially goes up. But at the same time, you really don't want to be setting down your workers all at the same time, because that means the next round you're going to have to pick up. And really you want several workers riding the track, if you will, because it's a timing mechanism. Each round you move up and the space becomes more valuable that you go up. So you really want to keep them almost as long as possible, but at the same time, you have to take an action. So you may have to remove a worker a spot too soon, or you have to figure it out, well, which spot do I want to take, because I really need to pull next round. But at the same time, then that means you have workers that aren't being actively played. And so then therefore you're wasting that person because it's not on the board going. So it's there's a lot of thought process to this. Mm-hmm. So beyond riding the track system, there is obviously the gods chart. And the gods chart is, the more you appease the gods, you go further up. Now, there is an action in the game where if you're completely out of corn, you can displease the gods. You can go down a step and you can set yourself up for 3 corn. So if you have 1 corn, you go to 3. If you have 0 corn, you go to 3. So you're getting to the 3 corn spot.
And as we mentioned earlier, corn is kind of like the currency in this game. So you're going to need it to pay for playing actions on the board.
As well as feeding your workers.
Yes.
There is a feeding worker phase to this. And then the other piece of it is the technology track. So you can develop your technologies, which will give you additional resources at different locations, or make certain actions cheaper, or get you extra resources when you do things. So, and then there's also a bouncing mechanism at the end of those technology tracks. So for an example, at the end of the agriculture technology track, you can pay a resource and go up on the gods track. And so sometimes it's very beneficial to get to those end and keep bouncing. And then there's also, you can build buildings as well. So
and monuments.
And monuments. And so the monuments are end of game scoring, but the buildings give you instant gratification or continuous powers throughout the game. Like some are farmers, like so you only have to feed all your workers 1, or you feed a person completely at the feeding round, or you go up on the gods track. So there's a bunch of different options that you have. Oh, some are income, like you get an income at the income phases. So those are like the main part of the game. The expansion adds a couple of things. So the expansion adds this portion of the board here, which you're trying to advance your civilization in certain ways during these phases. So the first fourth of the game, you're not trying to do anything. But the second quarter, and you're building up throughout this whole time. So
you are trying to do things. You're just not getting rewarded at the end of the first quarter.
So, but then the second quarter, it depends on, like this one is how much technology you have. So for example, if you have 0 to 2, only 0 to 2 technology throughout the whole technology board, you actually get -5 victory points. Or you get 3 to 4, you get 0, 5 to 6, 6, and then +7, you get 13. So it's very advantageous that first round to make sure that you build up the technology track. Because that second round, there's actually going to be a penalty for going up the technology track. And that's the thing is, so whatever you're aiming for, there's actually a penalty for using it the round that it's due.
Yeah.
So you always want to do this stuff the rounds before. Because by the time it gets around, it is awful. I will say the last game we had is the technology track. This one right here was on the 3rd quarter. And that's when you were able to bounce, and it became highly unprofitable, and it really altered the game quite significantly. So these can really alter what you're doing, how you're doing it, because the cost is just insane, or you're trying to get something that you weren't typically getting before. Like normally I don't care about wood tiles so much, but that makes them really valuable when that comes up. So there's a lot of interesting mechanisms in this game.
Well, there's also some of the monuments will have in-game scoring based upon the
different things.
So the thing is the in-game scoring from the monuments, you have a set number out depending on number of players from 4 to 6, and once those are gone, they're gone. You don't replace those. You replace the other buildings, but those in-game ones, once they're claimed, and nobody can get any more.
Yeah. So there is a lot of strategy involved in this game, and that's the reason why I love this game.
Yeah. Now, you did leave off the other expansion component, which is the player, the additional.
So basically,
starting rolls.
You get starting rolls. So every person's a little bit different. They get a special ability or special power. Like one, you get all your workers immediately, but you have to pay 3 food per worker. That can be ghastly, but there's buildings that mitigate that. And so if you're like, I've done it before, and I've mitigated the costs, and I had those, and they're so nice.
Yeah, and then the other component is that you get a round-based score track enhancer to your taking first player, because there's a space in the base game to claim first player, but it's kind of meh. It's not the best space in the world. So
literally, it's nothing.
Yeah, you basically get the first player, and you get your worker back at the end of that round,
and you get corn,
and you get a little corn, because you get the corn that's accumulated. But this now gives you an incentive to use it because it adds a perk to going there as well. that you can choose to take, or you can.
No,
take
you
the
don't
first
get that
player
perk. You just, you just get the first player. This expansion is only really needed if you're playing 5-player, because the board gets so bogged down. It may be your only choice is to go over here, because let's be honest. So you're spending a worker for like this one right here. You're spending a corn and a worker just to get 3 corn.
Yeah, that one's not the best, but
Well,
some of them like give you the ability to build. And,
right.
You know,
I mean, not saying all of them are crappy, but a lot of them are. So that's a really I'm out of corn. I can't go anywhere. The board's completely full. So it's that space is only for 5 players. Or at least I feel like. I mean, yeah, like you said, the bouncing a technology maybe early on may be worth spending a corn to do, or some other things. But
I agree. It's not commonly something I would do, but
every once in a while,
it comes in handy. And it's just make sure that people understand what's in the expansion is those components.
Yeah. I really love this game. There's so many things. This is in my top 10. It was in my top 5 even. Still is. I love the fact of all the timing components to this, and it's so important. And I love the civilization. I like the technologies. I like the god track. I like all the. You have to be spot on, or you could really end up screwing up pretty badly. Where you're out of corn, and if you can't feed your workers, the negative victory points on that is not nice. So there's a lot of different things in this that I enjoy. And then I actually do like this piece of the expansion. I think it really makes the game different every single time. Because before, I do think there was some repetitiveness to it in the fact that there's one way. It kind of led to kind of a one way, but this alters things up as well as the monument. So between those two things now, I think it keeps being a little bit different because you have to rethink your strategy. What are your thoughts?
Well, I used to love this game. Unfortunately, Dodd and Sean have kind of ruined this game for me.
Why?
Because I like games.
I beat them once.
I like the games when there's lots of ways to win. What they have proven to me is there's a couple ways to win this game, and they've named the strategies. I mean, whenever you get someone that comes in that's played it to the point where you're going by this strategy, or you're going by this strategy, and it's like, okay, there's only 2 ways to win this game now, and it's very frustrating because I thought there was lots of ways to get through this and win, and when I play with Dodd and Sean, I've seen that it can be boiled down to, if someone's really good, like they are, it can become a situation where there's really only a couple strategies that even have a chance at winning. I don't like that.
I don't think that that's true, because I ended up beating them.
Because they competed with each other and took each other out and let you win as a result.
Are you saying I'm not a good player?
No, I'm not saying you're a good player. You're in a different league than Dodd and Sean are. You're probably in a really different league than I am, because you played a lot more than I have. I'm just saying when there's a limited number of strategies, to me it reduces the score of the game.
See, here's my problem with what your thought process is with this, is right? In every game, there's only so many strategies to score, right? Like, there is a limited, finite number. And if you're looking at this game, you can go the skull route, okay? You can go the technology route. You can go up to the gods track. That's the one I like doing if things make sense on the board. You can also go the food route. So for me, I think you're missing the point here. Like, I think maybe you've got, there's so much to do in this game. It's absolutely beautiful.
Oh, I agree. I like when there's a lot of things to do in the game. And I liked it because there was so many ways to score. The buildings were a cool mechanism. But whenever it came down to it, and when we played with Dodd and Sean, and they basically said, "Oh, well, you're playing the big corn, or you're playing this," and it's like, wait a second here, you've named the winning condition.
That's just like saying there's a kind of strategy. There is a food strategy. There is a god track strategy. There is a technology strategy. There is a building strategy. That's the components of the game.
Yeah.
So that's not fair to say, because you kind of focus on one thing because that's what you can be good at. That's what you build your technologies on. So then you can get more food. So then you can go change your food into resources to build your buildings.
Yeah.
Like, that's not...
I understand. I don't say it's a bad game. I'm just saying it's not in my top 10 anymore as a result of that. Whereas it's in your top 10. It's dropped out of my top 10 games because of the fact that I feel like it's got less options for winning, and I don't want to play it with Dot and Shot because I know I'm not going to win.
I mean, maybe that should be more of your thing, is that you don't want to, you want a chance at winning. I mean, but they're very experienced players. I mean, that's what you get with any game.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't go to a Terraforming Mars tournament and get, compared to a bunch of people and expect to win. I mean, people that are...
I think I can hold my own in a Terraforming Mars game.
Well, see, here's my thing, though. And this is the reality. We play a bunch of different games, so we don't get expertise.
We don't specialize.
We don't specialize.
No.
So to go up against people that specialize, you shouldn't discount the game.
Oh, no.
Because people do that. The fact that people can specialize in this game, I think, says a lot about the game.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I'm giving this baby a 10 because I love this sucker. So This is one of my favorite games. I will always play this game. Between this, Pipeline, and Terraforming Mars, sign me up. Where do I go? And for the record, there was not enough at the Gen Con selection, which really made me mad. So listen, we are going to be at Gen Con. If you want to play Tzolk'in with me, hit me up. We will make this happen. So that and Pipeline. Yeah. And if you don't know how to play, I'll teach you. So I'm down.
I'm more of an 8.5 on this. I think it's a great game. One of the problems is it's long. It is a very long game. It says it's 90 minutes. That's not true.
When playing with you, you were correct. Yeah.
It's not just with me.
No, I knew what I want to do. I can go, man. All
right. It is more of a 2 to 2.5 hour game. To be fair, it's a long game and it is a bit dry for that length. I like it. I think it's a great game. I don't think it's anywhere near as good as Terraforming Mars. And
if you got people that take long time for their turns, they're going to take a long time for this game. This, because of the amount of strategy involved. Now, there is enough between people that you should know what you're doing when it becomes your turn. Yeah. There is enough forethought for you to be able to do that. But when people don't, that can lead to length of game.
There's also the component of the gears changing, and you have to be able to logically think. Some people may not have the capability of figuring out ahead of time where their things are going to be in all of the gears, and be able to think strategically of knowing, that's a skill that you've got to develop. It's very difficult.
And honestly, when you say this is a medium game, I don't think that's accurate. Because of the strategy involved.
I said medium to heavy.
Well, you were more medium.
Well, I don't think it's got as much rule content as what a heavy heavier game.
I don't think it's the rule heavy on this. This is strategic heavy. Yeah. And you have to understand time, and that's why I said understanding time in the sense that, all right, three turns from, what am I going to, I need that worker to stay on for 3 rounds or 4 rounds. What am I doing in those 4 rounds and having that worker stay? Because you have to either take off and put on. And so sometimes I took in 1 off to put it back on the next round so I could spend 2 rounds while my others ride, right? So, but at the same time, you don't want to take all your workers up at once because that means you got to place them all the next round and that gets super expensive. So I almost have I almost have them in 2 sets. I have 2 to 3, and then I pick up 2 or 3, and then I lay down 2 or 3, and then I pick up 2 or 3. And that's the way you can keep them rotating once you have all 6 workers. Ideally, it's 2 on, 2 off, 2 on, 2 off, and 2 on, 2 off. But sometimes it's not what you get, right? Depending on where you're at on the board. So I think it's beautiful. I love it. I'm sorry you lost your love for it.
I still like it a lot. This is not a bad game. That's what I'm saying. You act like I'm giving it a horrible score at an 8.5.
That's because I love this game so much.
Now you know how I felt when we reviewed Battlestar.
That deserved what it got.
No, it did not.
It deserved what it got, okay? All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I had a blast sharing this wonderful game with you. It's one of my favorites. Definitely check it out. Totally worth it. We'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.